Rashonda Cade here. This is Reading with Rashonda. We are reading The House Behind the Cedars by Charles Chesnutt. We made it through like a couple of pages of chapter 16 last time. Chapter 16, the bottom falls out. Tryon saw Rena. Rena fainted. Tryon feels devastated. And the last we heard from Tryon, he said, well, he wasn't saying, he was thinking, she was worse than dead to him. For if he had seen her lying in her shroud before him, he could at least have cherished her memory. Now, even this consolation was denied to him. I mean, dang. All right, so let's keep reading. It's only about 2 more pages to go. Hopefully I won't get sidetracked. The town clock, which so long as it was wound up regularly recked nothing of love or hate, joy or sorrow, solemnly tolled out the hour of midnight and sounded the knell of his lost love. That was dramatic. The town clock, which so long as it was wound up regularly recked nothing of love or hate, joy or sorrow, solemnly tolled out the hour of midnight and sounded the knell of his lost love. I mean, wow. All right. Drama points right there. Lost she was, as though she had never been, as she had indeed had no right to be. Lost she was, as though she had never been, as she had indeed had no right to be. Wow. Okay, so lost she was, as though she had never been, as though she had never been a white woman, as though she had never been a woman who was able to pursue, I was going to say what she wanted to pursue, but really she was pursuing her brother's dream, but I guess that was better than what she had going for her. But as she had indeed had no right to be, she didn't have a right because she was born to a black woman. She didn't have the right to pursue what she wanted in life. He resolutely determined to banish her image from his mind. See her again he could not. It would be painful to them both. It would be productive of no good to either. He had felt the power and charm of love, and no ordinary shock could have loosened its hold, but this catastrophe, which had so rudely swept away the groundwork of his passion, had stirred into new life all the slumbering pride of race and ancestry which characterized his caste. See, when he was talking before, I don't care you don't have a family. That means nothing to me. Meh, meh, meh. And now that he has found out he was in love with a black woman. Ooh, I love me this black woman. Now that he has found this out, this catastrophe which had so rudely swept away the groundwork of his passion, really, then the groundwork of your passion wasn't all that grand, was it? And now it has stirred into new life all the slumbering pride of race and ancestry which characterized his caste. How much of this sensitive superiority was essential and how much accidental? How much of it was due to the ever-suggested comparison with the servile race? How much of it was ignorance and self-conceit? I vote for ignorance and self-conceit. To what extent the boasted purity of his race would have been contaminated by the fair woman whose image filled his memory. Of these things he never thought. Of course he never thought of these things. He was not influenced by sordid considerations. He would have denied that his course was controlled by any narrow prudence if Rena had been white, pure white, for in his creed there was no compromise. But why wasn't she white? I mean, you didn't know she wasn't white. What makes somebody white? I mean, these are the questions we're clearly supposed to be asking. And yet I continue to get riled up. This is why it takes me all day to read 2 pages. Thanks for staying with me. All right. He was not influenced by sordid considerations. He would have denied that his course was controlled by any narrow prudence. If Rena had been white, pure white, For in his creed there was no compromise. He would have braved any danger for her sake. Had she been merely of illegitimate birth, he would have overlooked the bar sinister. Had her people been simply poor and of low estate, he would have brushed aside mere worldly considerations and would have bravely sacrificed convention for love. But his liberality was not a mere form of words. For his liberality was not a mere form of words. But the one objection which he could not overlook was, unhappily, the one that applied to the only woman who had as yet moved his heart. Then why does it matter if you love her? Now, if you love me, I'm black. I self-identify as black. So if you love me, you love a black woman. She was not self-identifying as black. And honestly, if you can't see past this, then you don't really know me. You just see this. And the same with Rena. If you can't see past that, you don't really know her. Do you really love her? And if you really loved her, would it matter? Would it? He tried to be angry with her, but after the first hour he found it impossible. He was a man of too much imagination not to be able to put himself, in some measure at least, in her place, to perceive that for her the step which had placed her in Tryon's world was the working out of nature's great law of self-preservation, for which he could not blame her, but for the sheerest accident, no, rather but for a providential interference, he would have married her, and might have gone to the grave unconscious that she was other than she seemed. Now, I'm not recommending you defraud your spouse, but he's even acknowledging, I could have gone the whole rest of my life and never known this. And he's tacitly saying that would have been fine. The clock struck the hour of 2. With a shiver, he closed the window, undressed by the moonlight, drew down the shade, and went to bed. He fell into an unquiet slumber and dreamed again of Rena. He must learn to control his waking thoughts. His dreams could not be curbed. In that realm, Rena's image was for many a day to remain supreme. He dreamed of her sweet smile, her soft touch, her gentle voice. In all her fair young beauty she stood before him, and then by some hellish magic she was slowly transformed into a hideous black hag. With agonized eyes he watched her beautiful tresses become mere wisps of coarse wool, wrapped around with dingy cotton strings. He saw her clear eyes grow bloodshot, her ivory teeth turn to unwholesome fangs. Fangs? I mean, fangs? Wow, okay. With a shudder he awoke to find the cold gray dawn of a rainy day stealing through the window. He rose, dressed himself, went down to breakfast, then entered the writing room and penned a letter which, after reading it over, he tore into small pieces and threw into the wastebasket. A second shared the same fate. Giving up the task, he left the hotel and walked down to Dr. Green's office. "Is the doctor in?" he asked of the colored attendant. "No, sir," replied the man. "He's gone to see the young colored girl what fainted when the doctor was with you yesterday." Tryon sat down at the doctor's desk and hastily scrawled a note, stating that business compelled his immediate departure. He thanked the doctor for courtesies extended and left his regard for the ladies. Returning to the hotel, he paid his bill and took a hack for the wharf from which a boat was due to leave at 9 o'clock. As the hack drove down Front Street, Tryon noted idly the houses that lined the street. When he reached the sordid district in the lower part of town, there was nothing to attract his attention until the carriage came abreast of a row of cedar trees, beyond which could be seen the upper part of a large house with dormer windows. Before the gate stood a horse and buggy, which Tryon thought he recognized as Dr. Green's. He leaned forward and addressed the driver. "Can you tell me who lives there?" Tryon asked, pointing to the house. "A colored woman, sir," the man replied, touching his hat. "Miss Molly Walden and her daughter Rena." The vivid impression he perceived of this house, and the specter that rose before him of a pale, broken-hearted girl within its gray walls, weeping for a lost lover and a vanished dream of happiness, did not argue well for Tryon's future peace of mind. Rena's image was not to be easily expelled from his heart, for the laws of nature are higher and more potent than merely human institutions, and upon anything like a fair field are likely to win in the long run. Well, that chapter's over. And is anybody besides me wondering what he's gonna do? And like, I don't mean is he gonna marry Blanche? Like, I mean, is he gonna really drop Rena? Maybe, I don't know. Probably. But what I'm wondering is what happens with Warwick now. Now that Tryon knows, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna out Warwick and his son? Like, the plot thickens. And that is The House Behind the Cedars by Charles Chesnutt. We finished up, was it chapter 16? Yes, we just finished chapter 16. Lost my spot here. Gotta get my post-it back in line. And we'll do chapter 17, or at least part of it, next time. I'm Rashonda K. This is Reading with Rashonda.